Welcome to the Borgen Bonus Podcast, the only English language show about fictional Danish politics. On our main show, we explore the people, events, and parties that make up the Danish parliament on the show Borgen. And in our bonus episodes, we do more detail on specific characters, settings, places, and events. I'm one of your hosts, Amy, coming to you from Istanbul, Turkey, and I am joined, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Chantal, who broadcasts from her beautiful room with a view in Toronto, Canada. Welcome, Chantal.
Hello, Amy.
Hello.
Hello. So where we left off talking about episode 1 and 2 of season 1.
Yes.
We wanted to bring you this bonus episode to focus in on Birgitte Nyborg and what is it about her that we like so much. And, you know, we started to talk about what a diverse actress Sitsi Babett Knudsen is. And Amy, you were talking about seeing her in that film. You described she was a head of a crime family. That
yes.
film is Wild Land.
That's right.
Yes,
that's
directed
right.
by Jeanette Nordahl from 2020.
Yes.
She also crossed over and did Westworld. I didn't see Westworld, but I knew
I haven't seen it either.
She had a role in that back in 2016. And I originally saw Sitsi Babett Knudsen in a film she did by Peter Strickland in 2014 called The Duke of Burgundy. So talk about diverse acting. She went from the crime boss in Wildland in 2020. Before that, she played a woman, a scientist of butterflies, studying, giving lectures, listening in on lectures, writing and working from the library in the daytime, to having this BDSM relationship with her female lover.
Ooh,
in a very hot, in a world that is, there was all women in that world. And it was supposed to be shot in taking place in the 60s or 70s, I think. It was actually really, really good. So talking about the diversity of Sitsi Babett Knudsen and her portrayal of Birgitte Nyborg in Borgen, and why are we so drawn to Birgitte? So what is it about her and this role and the writing of this role and character that captivates us? Do you want to start, Amy, and talk about what you think?
For me, I mean, the character of Birgitte, I mean, she's so dynamic. She is, she's a professional, she's capable, she's fit, she's dresses sharp as, I want all her clothes. Oh my God, there are so many occasions I'm like, I should dress like an adult maybe one day. And like, her wardrobe is perfect. I mean, of course, her character goes much beyond how she looks, but the look of the actress, her dark hair, she's got this radiant skin. She's got a great smile. She's got brilliant blue eyes,
very striking.
Yeah. And she's not what you would call a classic beauty. Like, she's not like tall and slim and blonde. Okay. Like, she's medium height, she's middle-aged, she's over 40. And, like they talk in that episode 1 about her weight and stuff. And she's like not tiny, but she's not, like,
large.
Large either. She's very middle-sized
average.
And very average. Yeah. But she's not average though, because she's so engaging and so commanding. And like, Knudsen is just a great actress. Like, she is in that role. I believe her in that role. Yeah, she totally owns it. And she owns all the things I've seen her in. She was the same with the crime family, but like, she was scary in that film.
Really?
And like, Birgitte Nyborg is not scary.
No.
I mean, she's firm.
Yeah.
She's firm and
she's not
dedicated,
terrifying.
But she's not terrifying. No. And, she was like cold-blooded in that other film and raising these, like, a house full of very violent men, and like kind of encouraging them to be that way. And like, that's not Brigitte's.
No, it's not. It's not Birgitte at all.
So, yeah. So, but the character on Borgen, like, she's just so pulled together, and she's a career politician. This is something that she's always done. She talks about her student days and like having like these deep beliefs, her character had deep beliefs in democracy, and in the rule of law and in equal opportunities for all kinds of different people.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that like when she says those things, like I believe her. If she was a real politician, I would vote for her.
Yeah. She would have my confidence and trust for sure. For sure.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's the appeal to both the actress, but also the way the character is written, is that we all wish we could be her. I mean, I think I speak for the majority of women, for her bravery. She's confident, intelligent. She makes big decisions, but she still looks after her kids and is very affected if they're not happy or doing well. And she does find a way, as we continue to see in the seasons, to balance the impossible task of balancing personal and professional. She still somehow maintains it, and I also think the appeal of this role is that this role, the way it's written, it could have been cast with a man. Yeah. And I also think that's what makes things so appealing, because it's usually speaking, the role of men seem to usually get the juicier roles. The ones that are the most dynamic, the ones that have the most, sort of volatile experiences. And so
in real life and in acting roles, frankly, how many countries really have female leaders? Like how many really? Not that many.
No, but now more than usual. But I have to say,
now
again,
more than
the
before.
Scandinavian countries are still ahead, looking at countries like Iceland and their cabinet and prime minister, a young woman.
And they're female, like in 2008, when the big economic crash happened, like a female fronted government pulled them out of that crisis, frankly. And look at the way female politicians have handled the pandemic crisis globally. Look at New Zealand. Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
A prime example of how to get stuff done properly.
Right. So being very capable, and so women are still not treated equally or equitably in terms of real life experiences and expectations, but also on TV and film land, casting and roles. And, we talked about this, how Birgitte Nyborg is a woman over 40, and there's no apologies for that. They're not casting someone who's 25 to play a 40-year-old. They've cast a woman who is age appropriate for that role.
Yes. All the casting is age appropriate in this show. It's incredible. It's just like not even an issue. And it's so exciting to see that.
Yes. And especially for a character like Han, where we know she's an esteemed journalist. You're not an esteemed journalist at 25,
No, you're not.
It takes decades to build up that, realm of experience and expertise. Yeah. So,
and I would say she looks closer to 60 than 40. I think the actress who plays her is in her late 50s. So, and it shows, and like, that's perfectly acceptable. Yes. People age, they get wrinkles, they have gray hair, but they stand, she's still like that. The age equals gravitas in a profession, like experience equals knowledge and like, confidence and command. Like, look at the difference between Hannah and Katrine. Katrine is very nervous a lot of the times for her major interviews. And Hannah would be like, come on, snap to it. Like, let's do it. Get it done.
And Hannah's the one we see in, I think it was either season 1 or episode 1 or episode 2 of season 1 that we just discussed on this podcast, about how Han is really organically this mentor to Katrine. There's no female competition, or there's no cutting each other down. And again, I think it's Han's, first of all, the bond between women, that you should always try to help your fellow women, but also Han's passion and joy for journalism,
Yes. And I think the problems that are like the problem of the whole like email drinking problem thing, where Hannah gets thrown under the bus, that's clearly coming from somewhere else. It's not coming from Katrine. It's somebody else interfering with Han's career. And as a result, interfering with her relationship with Katrine. And like, that's to me, so obvious male meddling. Like it's just obviously that's what it is. And considering, the disrespectful way that those two are spoken of by their male colleagues, it's not a surprise. And I've certainly seen that happen in like people's real lives. Like women get vilified or pushed around or sabotaged by their male colleagues. I've seen it happen in my professional experience, actually. Not with me, but with somebody that I worked with who was above me in a managerial position in one of the jobs that I've had. It was almost like a coup d'etat, like the males under her, kind of gravitated together and like ousted her eventually. And that particular business has never really been the same since,
Right.
So yeah. And it's, it's been, it's interesting to see how that happens, and getting back to how you were speaking of men getting all the juicier roles. If this was a show about a male prime minister, I don't think I would have watched it. I don't think
I would have watched it either. That's a very interesting point. I don't know. My attention is really captivated.
It's like, I know, and it's like, I know that story. I know the story of the male leader, blah, blah, blah. Oh, the male leader who struggles. Oh, like,
yeah, exactly.
Boring. We know that story. We've heard it. This is a woman who has to be a woman and be a leader. And a lot of people would say that those two are naturally contradictory, which of course we know that's not true. Hello.
Right. And on top of that, be a mother. And she doesn't shirk her responsibilities as a mother. I mean, we see her working late. We know she comes
struggle
home late.
with it. It's a struggle.
Yes. And it weighs on her mind. And Philip does, bring it up to her now and again. And she feels terrible about it. This is not what she wants to do. But I think as women, we have to juggle multiple roles every single day. We don't get a day off. We don't get a day off from being, a partner or a mother or a worker in our professional careers. We have to perform constantly. And I think you're right. If it was a male in this role, I don't think I would watch it. You know what I mean? But talking, and I know we probably have quite a few listeners from Scandinavia. I mean, one of the things that struck me was the Stieg Larsson Millennial series when it came out. Those novels were outstanding. And I can't believe that, I don't speak Swedish, but I read the translation of the novel and it was still so captivating to me. Yeah. And talking about juicy roles, I mean, the role of Lisbeth Salander could have been given to a man. In fact, it's expected that a man serve that role because she is against the grain.
Yeah, a motorcycle riding outlaw hacker.
Exactly.
That's not a female role, right?
Yeah.
Typically.
So for those people
with
that
tattoos.
are exactly, and for those people who are not familiar with it, these are Stieg Larsson's novels of a series called the Millennium Trilogy. And the novels are The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was the first one, followed by The Girl Who Played with Fire, and the third one, The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. And I believe after Stieg Larsson passed away, there was another book written. Yeah, but I didn't read that one.
I didn't read that one either.
I was so hooked by these first three. So, this is a dream role played by Noomi Rapace. And from the way she looks to the skills, as you were talking about, Amy, she acquires for computer hacking, motorcycle riding, weapons, her sharp thinking. She's 10 steps further than every man around her. And she has no qualms about exacting revenge on men that take advantage of her. And she is all about probably 5'2", very slim and petite. How is it that she can exact revenge on men who violate her in the grossest way possible?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So she takes revenge on these men. She's the men who, unnecessarily
harm her.
Yeah. This power and inappropriate behavior towards her. And I think we all wish we had that courage like Lisbeth Salander and Birgitte Nyborg. At least I do. I'm in awe of these women. They kind of have this superhero aspect to them that I wish, I'll speak for myself. I wish I could be that outstanding and still keep it together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And like Lisbeth Salander, like that's almost, it's definitely more superhero style. Like that's almost like action film, comic book genre. Right. But you still wish you had that power. And
the courage she has to be her, she doesn't smile when the boys expect her to smile. She doesn't take home a man like everyone expects her to take home. She doesn't actually really date. You know what I mean? We see her, her and the main character sometimes, and we know she's had female lovers, but she
treats her relationships the way men treat their relationships when they have casual relationships.
That's true.
Think about that.
It's she's not working towards a ring on her finger or expecting a woman at a certain age should have this. She is going by desire.
She does what she wants on her own terms. And Brigitte, I mean, Borgen is much more like realistic, I mean, of course there's like, the plot lines are slightly fantastical, like the whole Ole dying thing, but like that could happen. I guess that could happen in real life. It's not something that's totally impossible, but it is more in the realm of like realism and stuff. But she's still so commanding, and like the depth of character. And I have to say again how much I love the treatment of age. Bent is an older man, he's not Brad Pitt,
right.
But like we still love him, and he's charming, and he's married. He has a great relationship with his wife, right?
Yeah.
And Philip, the actor, oh my God, he's so handsome.
He's so handsome. Yeah, I agree.
I wonder how old he is. I don't even know. I haven't even.
Well, I think he was older than Tsitsi Babett Knudsen.
Yeah. And like what is he, like 50? Like DILF, hello. Like I would hit that. Like if I saw a guy like that on a dating app, I would send him a message for real. But what do I know? I mean, my most recent relationship, I mean, I got elbowed by somebody in a bar, turned around and asked me if he wanted to fight me. And then 5 years later, now we're together. So, I mean, I wouldn't recommend that route either, but yeah, like, like to have that kind of bravery and courage. And like, I would love to have, if I was going to have a domesticated relationship, please send me Philip. Like, I'll take a relationship like that, and I won't be PM. So like the issues that come up because of my hours of work, that's not going to happen. Just Philip, if you're out there, just call me.
Well, we'll talk more about Philip as the season progresses, because he does change. I mean, when I met him as well, I really, really liked him and thought she really struck gold with him. But as the season progresses, as you'll know from the rest of our shows, we're going to see a change of behavior in Philip and their dynamic change a bit. So as we progress in our episodes, we'll see more and more of that, but also ways in which Birgitte sets herself apart from her peers, her male politicians within her cabinet within Denmark and beyond, and how she can stand shoulder to shoulder with anyone through grace, elegance, intelligence, and make her point and mend gaps between people and countries. She's poised, prepared, well thought out, and fearless. And underneath her appearance and perceived personality, she always gets the job done.
Yes, she does. And sometimes, we see her being so uncompromising in the first couple of episodes, but of course, as her term as prime minister progresses, naturally she does have to compromise and does have to kind of like
yield when she doesn't want to.
Yes, of course. And like anybody in that position has to do that. And like, this is the reason why so many people complain about politics, but like politics and government is a machine that runs no matter who's driving it, kind of thing, so you have to sometimes bow to the machine, the mechanisms of politics. And we'll see her, in the international sphere later on as the season progresses, like hold her own against difficult, powerful male politicians. And the way she handles herself is phenomenal. And it's what you would expect of her. Like even though she has to compromise on some points, she never really compromises her personhood. She never corrupts. She never becomes corrupt within herself just for the role of politician.
No. And I think we see her evolve, but we see her bend, but we don't see her change.
We don't see her break. She doesn't break.
We don't see her break. We see her bend. And the only reason she bends is because she has necessity. To.
Yeah,
but we still believe throughout the whole thing that she has a very secure moral compass and sensitivity towards marginalized groups, towards doing the right thing, fighting for equality and equity and justice among these people, even though it's not necessarily the popular way of thinking. She stands up for it. So So
Yeah.
yeah.
Like the way, the way in her speech, she says like Denmark is already a multi-ethnic society and like trying to stop that from happening is ridiculous. Like she already is aware that like the typical like, white, blonde, Scandinavian, we're all one homogenous culture. That's not really a thing, you know? And that's something that I've noticed recently on other Scandinavian shows. It's like, it's quite diverse. Like I've seen the actor who plays the leader of the Green Party in Borgen, who is Middle Eastern origin.
Oh, Amir, yes.
Yeah, Amir. Yeah, his name's Amir. I forget the actor's name. I saw him play a really slimy industrialist in an Icelandic cop show, and I just was like, oh my god, it's Amir from the Green Party, and he's like promoting this like aluminum smelter, and I'm like, oh, that's not Amir,
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see like even like I think that's something that people in Scandinavia are kind of constantly dealing with. And I don't know if our listeners are aware, but like I said, I'm a teacher here in Istanbul, and I actually run our Model UN Club. And like looking at diversity and like, how different cultures handle diversity is part of what we do in that club. So I'm even like influencing young people here to like think about these issues too. So I sometimes use Borgen as an example in MUN, and I feel like showing them some clips of like how to do a debate, how to make a speech, because these are really, really good examples of how to do that. It's fantastic. I would love to be able to give a speech like Brigitte's speech in episode 1 at that debate, where she just goes off the script and still sounds perfect. And like, that's the speech that won her the election, not the like pre-prepared, like Casper Ewell approved monologue.
No, but she took a chance. She winged it and she did it. Like she's our hero, she got it at the end of the episode, she got what she intended to get.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a very moving speech, and it made complete sense to me, like I was like, yeah, exactly. And I think that applies, I mean, we're both Canadians. We live, before I moved to Istanbul, which is a diverse enough culture of its own, frankly, it's very diverse here, much more than most people think. And it always has been, actually. I mean, this is like the Silk Road. It's the biggest city on the Silk Road, one of the biggest cities. And before that, I was living in Toronto, where you're living now. Talk about a diverse society. Like, I think London and Toronto have like the most mix of ethnicities of any cities in the world, even more than New York, I think. Well, the last time I checked. You lived in New York.
Well, I actually lived in New York. I lived in New York for 4 years, and I was born and raised and grew up in Toronto all my life and lived there for 4 years. And it was very interesting to meet the Americans there and hear them tell me, this is the center of diversity, and this is, there's so many cultures here. And I said, you haven't been to Toronto, have you?
Yeah, exactly.
I said, there are people here with different skin colors, but it is very segregated, in my opinion, where certain people are working certain jobs, living in certain areas, making certain incomes. And there's also certain stereotypes about people when you see them, that if you see a person of color, then they must be of a certain background, but they would never think beyond that. Right. Whereas in Toronto, I feel that the expectation is most people are not from here, or their families have immigrated here.
Yeah.
And,
even the white people aren't from Toronto. Like, let's face it, like they're all from Saskatchewan. No, I'm kidding, of course. But like, like you see, that's true about Toronto. And like, there have been times where I've been in the subway in Toronto, and I'm like, I'm sure I'm the only native English speaker in the subway car.
Yeah.
Like you can see people reading Chinese newspapers, 2 people speaking Italian. We both lived in the East End of Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Which is like traditionally the Greek neighborhood. So like you can hear people speaking Greek and English mixed in one sentence. It's amazing.
Yeah. And you hear that in many pockets of the cities in Koreatown or Indiatown or Little Italy or Chinatown. And the fact that, as you get closer to Chinatown, even the bank machines
are in Chinese.
one,
Yeah,
one of the
Chinese
choices in a
directions.
Chinese language, yes, and in English and French. It's fantastic, you know. So
yeah, very diverse. We're so lucky that we live there. And I think again, you know, like in these traditional, you know, Nordic countries, this is a newer phenomenon. It's not like, you know, the traditional like Viking culture or whatever out of Scandinavia, you know, and like it's interesting. Like if you look at the history, I mean, I'm not a history expert, of course, but like if you look at the history of Scandinavian culture, there is that kind of like go forth and conquer attitude, like the Vikings came from here. And that's something that's been co-opted, interestingly, by white supremacists, right? They're like sons of Odin or whatever, like these white supremacist people. And that's not cool. And it's not an appropriate use of that culture's, you know, traditions and stuff. And I think that it's something that has to be dealt with like, you know, the ongoing refugee crises across Europe, from like Syria, from Afghanistan more recently. It's just like an ongoing push, and it's causing so much division.
yeah.
And it's interesting to see that this TV show from Denmark, from like, I guess it started in like what year, like 2015?
No, I think it was
earlier?
like 2010, 2009, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So about 10 years ago, you know, it's kind of the beginning of the Syria crisis, I guess, right? Because that was kind of starting right around then. And the kind of pushback across Europe, Central and Eastern Europe in particular, where the politics have taken a very distinctive right-wing turn in quite a few places. Hungary, for example, Poland as well. These are recent examples that I've read about. And it's just so disheartening to see that, you know,
polarization.
And yeah, this polarization that's happening across the world. I mean, like, look at what happened in the US and Canada with the COVID crisis and during the Trump administrations and everything. And excuse me, that was the message dinging on my computer because I forgot to turn off my notifications. I had them turned off and we kept recording. Anyway, I'll just leave it there. So yeah, it's just interesting to see like that this TV show out of Denmark like maintained this, we can be united as a society, even though we're all quite different kind of thing. And as a Canadian, like that's something that's like really, really natural for me. You know, and it's like people come to, you know, why did you move to Turkey? Like, don't you have, like, everyone wants to go to Canada. Isn't it a trouble for you to be here? And I'm like, no, it's nice to be the outsider actually sometimes.
Yeah. I think it's humbling, you know, myself.
Yeah.
When I traveled in Europe, being in countries and the Middle East, traveling in the Middle East, where it's humbling not to understand what they're saying and to be an outsider. And
yes,
you know, it's I think it's great to switch things up and to know what it's like to feel like on the other side. So Borgen was released in 2010 and ran until 2013.
Right. So and they're coming up with the 4th season soon-ish. We will keep you posted on that.
Filming now.
We will keep you posted
and
on
should
that.
be released in 2022. So so with that, we should probably wrap up this bonus episode. Our first bonus episode. The next episode we'll be talking about, we're going to go back to season 1. We're going to discuss, Amy's going to tackle episode 3, and I'm going to tackle episode 4. So we hope you'll join us.
Yeah. And we get to see Birgitte take over as PM. And in our future bonus episodes, we will be revisiting Birgitte. We will be visiting other characters, and we'll check in with different characters as the show progresses to see their progress and their dynamic
evolution of characters.
Evolution of characters, as well as looking at other aspects of the series as well.
All right. So, well, with that,
stay tuned.
I'm Chantal. I'll sign off here from sunny Toronto. It's 4:13 in the afternoon.
Yep. And I'll sign off from not sunny because it's dark outside. It's 11:13 here in Istanbul. That's PM. And have a great evening, everyone.
We'd like to thank our listeners for joining us on this episode. You can check us out on our website, theborgenpodcast.com, where all of our podcast episodes are archived, and you can learn more information about us and the show. We'd like to thank our good friend Garth Jensen for providing us our intro and outro music. Thank you very much, Garth. And lastly, don't forget to check us out on all social media platforms. We are there, and we'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to connect with us and share what's on your mind using the hashtag #TheBorgenPodcast or by sending us an email or voice memo at theborgenpodcast@gmail.com.